Lou and Carl from Brrraaains A Head-Banging Life, and I'm posting a video asking Carl his top 10 games that have made a big impact on his life. As probably a lot of you probably know, as watching the videos, Carl's a big gamer. Mm-hmm. And obviously, quite a good challenge to think of 10 games that not just love, but have made a big impact.
Not a challenge at all.
Oh?
Nope.
Oh, okay.
I literally wrote 8 out of 10 almost immediately.
Oh, okay.
It's very easy.
Narrowing it down would be difficult.
No, well, no. I had to go back. And check that I wasn't missing one that was way more important. Because the important thing is this isn't about necessarily favourite games. Or these are all favourite games, but it's more about the emotional upheaval, impact on my life, timing, and all that. And you know how easy a lot of it was. I simply looked at my tattoo. So if you don't know, this entire part of my arm here is basically a video game montage of important moments, scenes, and collection of characters put together into one big thing of video games that have had massive impact. Some of them I haven't made this list simply because it's not easy. There's too many. But no, I actually thought it was easy.
Oh, cool. Yeah. And so doing this video at the moment seems quite appropriate. A lot of people have more gaming time as we're on lockdown. So it might give people suggestions to try out some new games they've not ever tried before or thought, I've not got the time.
Absolutely.
Now. So looking at the positives.
Yeah.
Positives, lose yourself in a game for a little while. I've been playing The Sims 4. I've enjoyed that. It's quite fun. You lose a few hours trying to create a new house. But yeah. So get right into it. What's your number one, your first one you've picked?
What I've decided to do, they're not in order in the sense that they're not ranked.
Yeah.
They're not ranked because I think that's impossible.
That's too hard.
That's impossible. But what I'm going to try and do is actually do them in almost release order, so to speak, or like earliest consoles, and work my way up. Because there are some that go back to the Mega Drive Genesis days, and there are some all the way up to the Xbox 360. And even some 1 or 2 that are available on mobile and things like that, basically.
So just as a complete idiot with game consoles, where was Genesis in the thing? Was it before Mega Drive?
It is a Mega Drive. It's the American name for Mega Drive. It's why I always say Genesis, because if you're watching this and you are an American, you may not be aware. You probably are if you're a gamer, that the Mega Drive was what we called a Genesis. Sega Genesis, Sega Mega Drive, the same console.
Oh, okay, that
the
makes
exact
more
same
sense now.
console. Yep, absolutely.
Oh, okay.
So that's why I say Genesis as much as anything else. I actually prefer the name Sega Genesis than I do Sega Mega Drive. Mega Drive sounds stupid. I guess it makes more sense in the contextual of what system was before. Master System, Mega Drive. Yeah. Makes sense. But Genesis just sounds cool. Sega Genesis.
Yeah, in the scheme of things.
Yeah, it's easy to say. It slips off the tongue quite prettily. So I'm going to start with a game that was available on the Sega Genesis. However, my version I would actually say people should play. It comes actually from the mobile nowadays. The mobile port of this game, because of how brilliant that port is. Now, this also is the one I probably undernard about the most. Now, there aren't many classic games in here. You haven't got your Super Mario Brothers and things like that, because as much as I love those games, I'm like, I remember looking at Mario, particularly going, did they really have... important for me was about emotional impact and how this makes me feel, either made me feel at the time, and if that sticks long in the memory, or what that game did for my long-term life. Yeah. That might sound silly to some people, that a game could have that effect, but some did. One in particular here, one game in this list changed my life. And that is not hyperbole.
Gaming's an art form.
Of course it is, yeah.
Everything that goes into, you think how much work goes into making the game, the music that comes from it, like the impact it has on films and books and everything. So it's an art form. I say it's very kind of dismissive of people to go, oh, it's just a game. It's like, well, no, it's not. And if it's your job, that's your life, that's your career.
Yeah, but that's how people is. It's like, obviously it's a form of entertainment, but sometimes you can have something that's bigger and more important than that. Sometimes, particularly, you can play a game and it can hit you at the most important moment. I find it absolutely wonderful. Spoilers. Although, if this is a fucking spoiler, seriously, what rock have you been living under? Aerith, when she dies in Final Fantasy VII, to then find out from the creator that was his way of dealing with the grief of his death as his mother. How can that not have even more impact? Yeah. That's incredible. Absolutely. Back to the point. None of the Mario games. I love Super Mario 64. I love the newest one. But none of them I can go. I was trying to place a time in my life that I could go, I can remember the moment I'm playing that. Yeah. It happens with a lot of movies as well. I can still tell you right now the exact moment when I saw Ring. The exact moment, where it was, what time, roughly what time it was. Yeah. That's how fucked up that is. So that's why Mario didn't do it. And then I obviously got to the other franchise, opposite Mario, and I went to Sonic. And I was like, right, I love Sonic games, particularly the early lot. And before I even went further down that thought, the one, it just jumped out instantly in my head. And I was like, yeah, that's why. And it's Sonic the Hedgehog 2. Now, Sonic the Hedgehog 2 over Sonic 1, simply because it was bigger, bolder, brassier, prettier, had everything. To me, it's the perfect Sonic game. Not only that as well, it's the mobile port. This is so important. The mobile port is incredible as it includes the zone that was obviously left out, but was originally supposed to be put in Sonic 2. Sonic 2 was supposed to have this extra zone called Hidden Palace Zone.
Yep.
Because they were desperate to get it out because of the success of Sonic 1. They had Sonic 2 out within a year. They rushed it and didn't include this port.
Yeah.
It's a zone, sorry. However, a magazine leading up to Sonic 2 had printed screenshots of that. So it did exist in some form.
Yeah.
The internet, being the smart asses that you are, found it in the code. And there are great videos out there of the buggy as fuck smashed up zone being in the game.
Yeah.
I remember when I first saw the video, I thought it was fascinating. I was like, God damn. So, continuous story. There's a guy, I cannot remember his name. I think it's Christian Whitehead, who ported off his own back and did Sonic the Hedgehog on mobile without the approval of Sega or anything like that. They were so fucking impressed. They brought him on, got him to do all of them. He did Sonic.
So rather than an expensive lawsuit, they took him on board.
He ended up doing Sonic 2, redid the zone, included it in. So if you played Sonic 2 all your entire life, but not the mobile version, play it. You have a brand new zone to play. So that alone was why, and I love. That's why I'm like, that's the port. That's what you need to play. So
Sonic 2, the zone. I think because I definitely played Sonic 2. I'm trying to get confused with my zone. So that's like Casino Zone. And the ruins, was that the first game? They've
all got some variation. You're going to have to specify. There is. You have to specify what you mean. I mean, you're talking about. Yeah, I know you are talking about Sonic 2 because you're talking about that where you can go into the slot machines and the rings. That's Sonic the 2. Yeah, and they're quite upbeat kind of casino style.
I can picture it.
I love all of that. However, I remember playing this as a child and adoring all of it, and then I hit a certain section, and for me this is where the game became something else, and it's why it's lived so long in the memory, where I can hear certain type bits of music and stuff like that and just be absolutely loving it. It's the latter part of the game where it stops being that localized Sonic thing, because here's the thing, Sonic always felt large because of the zones, but it felt like you were moving one to the other. Sonic 2 then had you move beyond that and then do a level where you're on the plane of Tails, flying through the air, flying towards the egg carrier, carrier, and that level there, while it's rock fucking hard, that level there, Wing Fortress Zone, with the epic music, that down, and it's flying through fucking air, top speed, and you're on the side of it, and you're fighting your way through to Robotnik. And that music is so grand. It made it feel like, holy shit, this is
important adventure, important part of it.
Like this is it's beyond like bigger, badder, bolder, as I said. And it's still the fact that then at the end of that level, you end up going into space, fighting a metal version yourself, and then you have that incredible end boss battle with the gigantic Robotnik robot, which has those windows in space as well. So it's got that huge scope and scale. With, like I said, my favourite Sonic game soundtrack, Sonic the Hedgehog 2's favourite. Well, it's obviously Green Hill Zone is the iconic piece of music. I think the best shit comes from Sonic 2, the most imaginative. Metropolitan Zone, Metropolitan Zone, I can't say that one. Is the music in that is so cool. It is of all of them, of the Marios and the Sonic games, the one that whenever I think about, that jumps out above everything else. And then I said only 2 years ago, I relived it on mobile, thinking this will be fun. Let me play Sonic 2 on mobile. And then obviously I found out about that Hidden Palace Zone was back in it. I got to experience for the first time in my entire life
a whole new thing.
A whole new thing in Sonic 2. That to me is why Sonic 2 is one of the most important games for me. I can picture my childish wow factor over Wing Fortress Zone. You know? Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
So moving on from the next one, is it too far after this? After that, Sonic 2, or are we in the same
Right, so I will admit that there are going to be a few PlayStation 1 games on this. And the reason being is because it's probably the console I associate with most of my memories.
It's quite an important one.
Oh, are you kidding me? Jesus Christ. If you were of a certain age, if you were my age, you know how important PlayStation 1 was. Controversially, I don't think it's the best console ever made. There's a lot of people who will say it was. I think it had arguably the best collection of games, but I think it also had the most games where they go from quality. Whereas, like, there might be 1,000 games on the PlayStation 1, but 500 of them are brilliant.
Yeah.
The Nintendo 64, which is the best console ever made, had 300 games, 250 of them were brilliant. Like, that to me is the difference.
Yeah.
Quality over quantity.
See, I never played a Nintendo 64. Because obviously growing up, it was me and my brother, we shared consoles. So we had a Mega Drive for Christmas. That was both of ours. PlayStation, both of ours. And we never had like a in between, never had the N64 in between.
Such a shame.
So we missed out. Yeah.
Well, yeah, because
friends, I might have played at friends' houses and stuff, but we never had the.
You know, you like the amount of iconic games you missed out on it because of it. The Zelda games, the Super Mario 64, Banjo-Kazooies, everything like that. Star Foxes. Obviously, it's an iconic console for that reason. So yeah, I'm going to bring up a game from PlayStation 1. Which one shall I do?
You picked a few.
Right. This is going to seem really obvious, but as soon as I say it, you'll be like, well, of course that's one of them. But and I think it would be on a list for a lot of people. But but here's the thing. Tell a lie. Didn't play this on PlayStation originally. Oh. I played it on Sega Saturn. I should have remembered that. I do remember that. I can specifically remember the box art. The Sega Saturn boxes were larger, more like DVD size.
Oh, okay.
Well, actually even bigger than that. And they opened up and placed them as jewel cases, like CDs.
Oh yeah.
That wasn't Sega Saturn.
Broken in, yeah.
And it was Resident Evil, the original Resident Evil. It's an iconic game for many, many people. But I, being a young pre-teen, early teenager, had never experienced a horror game.
Yeah.
I played things like Manic Mansion and stuff like that, but not a horror game.
Yeah.
Not a game that was 3D, that had zombies roaming the hall, that had those iconic horror themes and tunes. And things that we laugh at now and all then didn't ever cross my mind as a kid. As a 14-year-old, I wasn't laughing at Jill Sandwich and, I can go down using the rope Jill and stuff like that, Master of Lockpicking. That stuff you appreciate. I was just in love with the ambience of that game. Not even so much the horror elements, the ambience of it, from the static camera shots of running down hallways, not knowing what's ahead of you, to the colour scheme of the mansion itself, to the feeling of a grand story that plays out. And here's the thing, is it the best Resident Evil? Of course not. Resident Evil 2 is far superior. But this is the one that started it all. Now, I really ummed and ahed about having this over or Silent Hill.
Oh, yeah, difficult.
Because I associate the two games, but I played Resident Evil first. So that's why this one has to...
Sticks.
It's more important.
Yeah.
It's more important. I played Resident Evil 100 times. I could get through that game so fucking fast, and I loved every minute of it. The fact that I'm still playing... I played it recently, the HD reversion, on my Nintendo Switch. Only about a month ago. Yeah. This is a game. Now, don't get me wrong, the HD version is obviously arguably a different game, but it's still like Resident Evil 1. I played that way back in early mid-90s. 96, I think it came out. And it was quite soon after that time on Sega Saturn. So 1996, 1997, I played it. And then in 2020, I was playing it still. Yeah. That, to me, speaks volumes. When people talk about the greatest horror games ever made, Resident Evil is always in there, without a shadow of a doubt. That's the general consensus, and it's one where I don't push against it. Yeah. I agree. I go, yeah, you're right.
I see myself as like a complete, dipping my toe in things. Me and my friend used to play it in the dark. Yeah. Because it was so scary, we used to take turns in being the person controlling. Because I was like, I know what things jump out at me. I can hide if I'm not controlling it. Yeah. So yeah, that was good memory as well, playing Resident Evil. It was like, yeah, you're going to control it for a little while. But yeah, so like I said, the atmosphere they builds up. Like you go into certain rooms and you start concentrating on little things, like when people come out of wardrobes and jump out from from corners and that. It's fantastic.
I've never played something with that level of detail before. And that consistently impresses me. Right.
So next one then, are we going to keep with the PlayStation thing? No. Are you going to shake it up?
Go to Nintendo 64. So I have, how many do I have from 1064? 2. Well, one's across. Right, so I did a one that's across all consoles, and I've actually played across all consoles. It is Shadow Man.
Oh, yeah.
Now, I love this. I love the fact that at the time of recording, within the next couple of weeks, maybe a little over a month, I'm going to get to play this again with achievements and HD remade.
Oh, nice.
I could not believe it when he announced it because it's an iconic game for me. Because again, it came at a time when I needed something wildly different, and I played the Nintendo 64 version. I would eventually play the PlayStation version. I played the Dreamcast version, and I played the PC version of this.
Yeah.
Best version, PC, obviously. Obviously, my preferred version, Dreamcast. For the controller aspect more than anything else. I mean, I'd love to be able to play. Problem is, why I wouldn't choose PlayStation? Because PlayStation was ugly as fuck and had a lot of problems. But Shadow Man, it's. I love the scope and scale of this is massively important to me in this way that it's so wide opening, but it's dark content. I love games that make me imagine, I guess, the horror that's on show in that. Now, it's a horror game, but it's also steeped heavily in fantasy with massive religious implications too.
Yeah.
Its boss is at Legion, for we are many and all that. Utilising things about Jack the Ripper and all that. Yeah. It still makes me laugh that there's a segment in that where you go through old-fashioned tube trains and tube tunnels. And I played this way before I became a tube worker. Yeah. Playing it recently now, I was like, that's funny. That's weird. That's funny. I always get like that when there's anything tube-related. But this is one I have tattooed on my body. That's how impactful this was to me. Michael Loire as a character is one that I've always found really, really fascinating. The concept behind it and following up with the comics is even more. He's much a slave to the Mask of Shadows as he is in control of it. The idea of life side and dead side fascinates me way more than any kind of heaven and hell system does.
Yeah.
And I love the idea that dead side can still be as living as live side, just in a different way. And evil can come from that. Then there's the fact it's an open world, massive areas to explore. And I always massively enjoy a system where you basically begin underpowered. And by the end, you're so powerful, you've gone back to areas that you previously played or had gone through, and you're able to do things you weren't able to do before there. In the very first area, the very first time you appear in Dead Side, there are 2 blood falls opposite sides of you. You cannot do anything to them. Way later into the game, you get the ability to climb blood falls. Yeah. So you go, all the way back to the very starting area of Dead Side to do that. I love that. I love the voodoo style of this as well. How much of that is shown and used to tell its story. I love its twist. I won't spoil it here. I love its twist as well. I found it particularly impactful and particularly twisted. Twisted. Shadow Man, it's one that I played so many times, and in fact, again, I played it maybe a few months ago and recorded the entire gameplay for the channel on YouTube, for this channel. Collecting all 120 Dark Souls. Again, it's another game that I've been playing now on and off for the last 20 odd years.
And
I'm going to get to play it fucking again with achievements. I can't tell you how excited I am about that. Yeah.
Nice. So, for your next one, are we going to stick with the same sort of theme of N64? We're going to go to a different console?
We're going to go to the Xbox 360. Now, I'm purposely leaving a few of these out because to the end, because these ones are probably... There is almost a little bit of a ranking. The ones I've talked about before are very important and very great and all that kind of thing. But there are a couple that, as I said, particularly one in particular, that changed my life.
Yeah.
But I'm leaving them to the end.
Yeah.
So we're going to go to a game that I only really fell in love with a couple of years ago. But I do consider it to be incredible, impact on me. Dark Souls.
Yeah.
Dark Souls. A game I'd heard about so many times through the internet and stuff like that, and the get good crap, and it's really, really hard and stuff like that, and me just thinking, I want a part of that.
Yeah, the jokey memes.
Yeah, why do I want to be a part of a game that just punishes me all the time? Holy shit, was I wrong. Good. This is one of those where I will hold my hand up and say I was completely wrong, and if you're like me and you're like, well, I don't want to play a game that punishes you all the time, you're wrong. Dark Souls punishes you, but it makes you get better, and you will get better. And getting better in a game is this is one of the most rewarding games I've ever played in my life. It is one of the most rewarding of how it makes you feel when you have been persevering for ages and ages and ages, and constantly with that feeling of tension and horror and just
killed again.
Yeah, and the constant and coming up against something that you're like, I just got murdered.
Yeah.
I remember, I will never forget, and I've told this story so many times, the first time I fought Gwyn. And I had been, at that point, steamrolling through the latter part of the game. I had made a mockery of the four kings. That's, like, literally, I made a mockery of the four kings. And I got to Gwyn, and I was like, bring it, bitch. It was a struggle to get to him, as you all know the game. And I was like, bring it, bitch. And I see him sitting in his campfire. I go running towards him. I break into a sprint. I see him get up. Cool. See, he's got a big weapon. Yeah, they've all got big weapons. What's he going to do? I see him start to walk towards me. And bear in mind, I'm moving my way. We're quite a distance away from each other. He starts sprinting. And I'll admit, I always remember being like, oh. And he jumps. Oh. 2 hits. Lands, hits me once, follows it up, killed me. I was schooled. Again, even at that point in the game, I was just like, fuck.
Yeah. It's good to keep challenging you. I think that's what you kind of... I've seen like a pattern in these games. Like, they're challenging and you still want to keep playing them. Like, you just want to go, this is too... There's punishment for no reward. This is like, you get punished in the game and you get rewarded and you progress and... Yeah.
The hardest boss for me when I first played it was the Bell Gargoyles. The very first, not very first, but the first proper boss you got to fight, because first of the bells you got a ring. And I remember struggling so fucking much at them that now, because I understand the game a lot better, I tend to go towards the Bell Gargoyles, having played it afterwards, with a bit more knowledge and a bit more built up and ready for them. But I will never, every time I beat them, I always get that feeling of going, yeah, man, I'm beating you this time, yeah. I haven't forgotten that. And I think that's why it's so important. I don't love Dark Souls for its story or how it looks or anything like that. I genuinely love it for how it forced me to play a game in a way I've never played before, which is to stop and go, you can't progress any further. You've you're not good enough. Yeah. But you will be if you go and do some other stuff here. If you spend a bit of time, people say, oh, well, you're just killing the same bad guys away on farming and stuff like that. And it's like, yeah, but I'm then taking the souls and I'm putting them into this and I'm balancing myself. And maybe I need to make a change here. Or maybe I need to approach a different area first and maybe not do that area, but go into it a little bit and experience it. And it also, I love that it forced me not to be able to play one specific way. I'm not a mage. I am not an archer or things like that. I'm very much a soldier kind of type person. And I liked armour that protects with a sword and a shield. I'm not putting tribute points into poison and magic and stuff like that. Blighttown. Blighttown's it's poison everywhere. You've seen me play through Blighttown, the nightmare, like fucking Blighttown experience that it is. Forget the poison, you can fall for your death and stuff like that. Suddenly I'm like, you're forced to. All right, I'm going to have to adapt myself here. I'm now going to have to spend time building up my poison resistance. But it makes you overall better because you're suddenly like, okay, they put this challenge here. I can approach it my way, but I'm going to fucking struggle because of that. Yeah. That's not their fault. It's me. It's now what do I do to overcome this obstacle? Yeah. I find that incredible. And it's the series as a whole has... I loved all of them. But when I think of the experience of Dark Souls...
First time.
It's Dark Souls 1, and I have a bonfire tattooed on my body, which is why that's got to be included. Yeah.
Got to be included in the list.
Yeah.
So what's next?
Shall I do one of the biggies?
Yeah.
I'm getting there. Right. A couple of years ago, I got told about a game that was a puzzle platformer. It's a puzzle platformer. Little blocks. You just move them, get through the puzzle, exit the level. Fuck, what do I want to play that for? I'm not big on platformers anyway. Less on isometric platforms, 2D ones and stuff like that. I'm not going to do it. I have no idea why I did. But my God, was it the best decision I've ever made in my life. Best decision I've ever made. Gaming of video games. Yeah. No, I'm going to say video games. And that might sound like hyperbole, but this was because the impact this game has had on me to the point where now, today... I'm not only talking about here, but it comes up regularly. It's a regular subject about this, and I've always encouraged others to play it and stuff like that. I would end up playing a game called Thomas Was Alone. A very low budget, very small team, made a game that I consider to be a modern masterpiece, if not one of the best games of the last decade, for sure. Not this decade. What was 2010 to 2019. That's what I mean. Yeah, not 2020 onwards. Yeah. It's so simple. It's so simple. And at first, I don't think you'll be wowed by it at all, except the wonderful, wonderful narration by Danny Wallace. There are several things that make this an incredible experience. One is the narration. Yeah. Danny Wallace, who would win a BAFTA for this, and deservedly so, is a master. He tells this story, gets the humour across, but also gets the sadness and beauty of everything across. Our blocks do not say anything. It's up to Danny Wallace to express their thoughts and opinions through his narration.
They've not even got smiley faces or anything to characterise them.
Nope.
Nothing like that at all. It's just literally blocks.
I always remember a specific point in the narration that is a great example of brilliant. And it's where Danny Wallace is talking about Chris's frustration with Thomas. And Chris is moody, a little bit unhappy. He's the small yellow bloke who can't jump very high. He's jealous of Thomas's abilities. And Chris is just annoyed, and he says something like, it's something along the lines of the way, and it's like Chris is talking about things that annoy him about Thomas, and it's the way he just goes, at every little thing, because Thomas is the inquisitive one. This collection of characters that you meet, each with their own abilities, but their own flaws and hang-ups as well about whether they're good enough and to do this and do that. There's a love story between two of them. Now listen, people, I'm telling you now, I'm about to spoil something. So if you don't want to watch this, I suggest you skip a couple of minutes in, because I'm about to spoil something important. I was loving this game all the way through. And I remember exactly where I was when this happened. I was here, and I had to put the controller down and walk away. This is how bad it was. I had to kill them all. I had to kill them all for the greater good. And the moment that sunk in, the moment that sinks in that level, when you realise that's what you have to do. And every one of them is fine with it. Just so, for the greater good of what they can come from that, I had to put the controller down. Even now I talk about it, I feel myself going, fucking hell. And that's... we do get a couple more. Do get about 20 more levels after that with almost the AI they freed. So the idea is they all will kill themselves, because they're gonna give themselves over to the system. To upload themselves in the system, which in turn will birth new with their abilities, which is what happens. And then we get the villain, Mr. Grey, and I love his end. Motherfucker gets his. Because that's as well. It's birthed from it. A balance of good and evil turns up. But if not that, the moment Thomas gets uploaded to the internet and Danny Wallace portrays the excitement, he gets, I can't remember how long he gets, a very short amount of time. And in a short amount of time, he talks about all the things he saw. There's something about a cake being a lie, something about cats, videos about cats, and it's just imagine a brief flash of the internet is what causes Thomas to go down this path and the realisation he has to be doing. Gameplay is excellent. The puzzle system is fantastic. And this is before I've got to what really sells the emotion to me in this thing. It's the music. Mike Bithell, David Housden, should I say? Mike Bithell is the creator. David Housden. Wow. He went and did a combination of chiptune style music, but with the absolute flair of epicness. Sometimes dark, sometimes heavy. Shit, one of them is my alarm. Inertia is my alarm. But the song I come back to and I'll happily play over and over again is the track Freedom. In fact, there's only 10 tracks in the soundtrack. That's it. It's Freedom. The one that plays at very, obviously, massive points, including the final sequence of events. Thomas was alone. Holy shit, it made me change my entire outlook in indie games. And I'm gonna cheat here because I hate the fact that this was the only one of the mobile, because I played this on Xbox 360, but it's also available on mobile, so I kind of chose it for the mobile side of things more than things. But I had to leave off. I've got to quickly name them just because they deserve to be mentioned as well. The impact Little Inferno had on me. Holy fucking shit! That still now blows my mind of what I thought I was playing to what it ended up being, and I will never forget the moment when I realised it had a story. That shocked me. To the Moon might be the most emotionally captivating game I've ever played on mobile. But close to that is the wonderful, wonderful. Love you to bits. These are all recommendations and other videos that I've done. These are the games, if you've got a phone, I'd urge you to play. But Thomas was alone. Yeah, again, it's on my body.
Yeah. So you can't get more of an impact than you want to have a tattoo of something that means so much.
And what the scene I specifically wanted, it's not even a scene in a game. It's a piece of concept art came from it, was Thomas standing on the edge of a platform. The AI deleter in the corner, and the light is shining through a cloud on Thomas. Ah, beautiful. I talk about Thomas as if he's he's a small red block. Yeah. And I love that.
That's the talent of these of the people that created and put it all together.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's one of those where I want a sequel, but I don't. I want a sequel because I want more, but I don't want to tarnish. Yeah. And thankfully, it's been such a long time now. It's been, I think, at least 8 or 9 years. I don't think we will. So, but there you go.
Yeah. So what are we on to next? The big one.
BioShock.
Nice.
BioShock from the Xbox 360. I really thought about this one hard, and I realised, yes, this had an incredible impact on me for a modern game that not only told an incredible story that blew my fucking mind. My God. Shall I spoil it for you? Yeah, spoilers.
It's been out for when did
it's been out for absolutely ages. 2006 maybe, I think. Okay. Maybe a little bit earlier than that. What's it called? Would You Kindly? The twist. Would you kindly? That entirely throughout the game, your actions have been not yours. And just the term, would you kindly, would force you to do something. And because obviously the game already forces you to do that, it ties it perfectly in. The would you kindly twist is often in the top, number one of the rankings of the best video game twists ever. Yeah. Would you kindly was fantastic. But BioShock's impactful not because of its story, not because of its characters, it's because of its location. Rapture. Yeah. The very first moment you go in that bathysphere and it talks about Rapture, and then you turn a corner and you see that underwater city. Wow. Yeah. Like fucking hell. And then you get inside and you find it dilapidated, destroyed, falling apart, pipes bursting here, water flooding in. And here as well, the tale and the stories of how this ever happened and how it became a thing. Every fucking room, every turning and corner has some new horror, because it's a horror game / first-person shooter or new story to tell. And then you realise there's depth to it as well in regards to the difference between class. And the reason why Rapture's falling apart is there's an uprising of the lower class is just amazing. I think BioShock, for a lot of people, will be one of the most impactful games of all time. But I can go back. BioShock, more than any of the not any of the sequels as well, is a game I could happily play over and over again and still be wowed. Still go, wow, that looks amazing. As much as I love, and I do love BioShock 2, and as much as I think BioShock Infinite is a prettier game, nothing will ever... we will never be able to get that moment back. And I think that would be so cool. I'll never be able to experience Rapture with fresh eyes again. Yeah. And I'd love to go back and do that,
Oh, wow.
A lot of these major events. Yeah. But to experience Rapture as it emerges from the murk of the sea, I would love that. Yeah. BioShock's, it's not just an important game to me, but it's an important game within my family as well. I think that's another major reason. It's a shared passion. Yeah. BioShock,
I say I've not played it myself, like just watching some of the graphics and just the gameplay when you're playing it, like everyone's seen shooting games where you have like bigger and better shotguns and stuff like that. This is where you kind of like, you make yourself a weapon, there's all combinations, and it's really fascinating to watch, and the whole steampunk look of it.
Oh yeah, it's major steampunk.
It's amazing to watch, and like it's a whole new setting, so say like Rapture and like that going. It was fantastic to watch, and like the challenge of making it underwater scene as well.
And feel underwater. Yeah. Feel underwater is a very important thing. Yeah.
And that adds to the horror part of it as well, because once you're in there, that's part of horror. It's like space and underwater. Yeah. They're horrifying to think about, because once you're in there, water pressure, air pressure,
And I will say, it did cross my mind, folks, but it's not on here. Yes, I from the space side of things, Dead Space does deserve a mention. But I don't have any major memories associated with it beyond really loving it, if that makes sense. Yeah. Right. There are 4 left. Right. I'm going to go for 1 before I hit the 3 biggest. Yeah. Although technically Thomas Alone is arguably the second biggest. One, The Legend of Zelda, Majora's Mask. Now, people might already be fucking hammering away in the keyboard. I did originally think I was going to put Ocarina of Time. But I realised Majora's Mask had more of an impact on me. That my tattoos are Majora's Mask based, not Ocarina of Time. I played Ocarina of Time first, and it is one of the greatest games ever made.
That'd be sad. There's scenes that make me sad. The music when the night and day.
What, Ocarina or Majora's?
There's one where like there's really sad music when like the moon comes.
Oh, well, right. So I'm gonna it's Majora's Mask.
Oh, okay.
The reason why I love Majora's Mask and the reason why it had more impact for me, so I played Ocarina to death, and then Majora's Mask comes along, and I'm stoked. I've got a Nintendo 64, the sequel to Ocarina of Time, and I put that shit in. I'm like, well, it's not continuing the story of Ocarina of Time. Okay, that's cool.
Yeah.
Holy shit. I am still so glad it didn't. I know it's not everyone's cup of tea, because it's ultimately almost like a reverse world, so to speak. But why I adore it and why it had such an impact on me is because it went, let's do a fucking dark story. And it's basically, this town in 3 days' time is going to be wiped off the face of this planet as the moon crashes into it. And you are on a timer to try and change these events.
That's what I'm thinking of. Yeah, it gets closer and closer.
It gets closer and closer.
I remember it was really sorrowful that the music and everything comes I don't like it.
You keep jumping ahead.
Sorry,
you keep jumping ahead to a specific point I'm going to talk about, but I don't want to yet. So a lot of it's standard Zelda gameplay, except here it's all about going back in time, which is a thing I love, and playing out storylines across time period. There are frustrations with that, and we have done a flashback over it. You can watch that with me and Damon to get more about that. But the impact it's had on me based across what I saw as almost a horror-based story came to a fucking head in the last moments of this game. Not the story. If you were waiting for the timer to run out, you reach what is called, soundtrack-wise, Last End. And the timer stops being that clock at the top and becomes a physical number, counting down. That moon now fills the entire sky. Look up from the town, the music hits. It's called Last End, and it is depressing, and it's horrible, and it's sad, and the entire place is shaking. And what makes that 10 times worse is the people that stayed in the town. And throughout the game, they'll talk about that. Oh yeah, I'm not going. Yeah. And then there's only how many people left in that town looking up. This is a Zelda game. What are you doing? Yeah. And I'm like everyone. I wait. I have seen what happens if you don't, and I've seen the explosion and the end. But also, I don't know how many people wait till that 5 seconds, just be like, nope, can't handle it. I'm going back in time. But you go back in time to the start of day one, and you're just like, these people have no idea. Like they've reset. They've all reset, and I know there are coded characters, but in my head I'm like, they've all reset. They don't know what
it's gonna
happen. Like I find that incredible. It's the most complete Zelda experience for me. The one that combined everything I've ever loved, from the collectathon to the Zelda exploration to the constantly getting from having nothing to everything, to a villain. Skull Kid. Now, the real villain is Majora's Mask, but Skull Kid wears Majora's Mask throughout the entire game. So, it's his doing. It's his fault. Then you find out that he was just lonely. He was just lonely. He was lonely. That's all it was.
Misunderstood bad guy.
He's lonely. It's Majora's Mask is the real villain of the piece. Majora's Mask more than Ocarina of Time. Ocarina of Time had the impact for the first Zelda game I ever played. It was Majora's Mask is the one that, when I think of my favourite Zelda moments, that's the one I go to. Yeah.
So it had an impact.
Yeah.
Okay. So what's your next one?
Right, here we go.
So you're into your bigger ones.
Yeah. I'm going to leave those two to last because they're similar in style.
Yeah.
Deadly Premonition.
Oh yeah, that could not get off the list.
Oh man, I still am amazed about this game. It is a game that people either love or hate. And I get why. I get why people can be like, this is fucking nonsense. It looks like shit. Plays like shit. Its story is madness inducing. It's got the most hilarious voice acting. It's batshit crazy music. And all of that combined, to me, just absolutely blows me away. I love nothing more than imagination. And if your imagination is a thin line between that and madness, happily, I'm even more happy. Deadly Premonition's story of an FBI agent, very similar, inspired by Twin Peaks, going to a small town to investigate a ritual murder of a girl, and then discovering that the ritual that killed her has links to murders dotted around the country is fucking excellent alone. How it then takes that and wraps it up into this incredible story. Guys, I'm going to warn you again, massive spoilers. They're happening right now. I can't talk about Deadly Premonition without talking about the specific points that mattered the most and where I just blew me away. So open world, all that is great. The character of Detective Morgan, York, is brilliant. I fell in love with him. The fact that he could drive around and just listen to his ramblings about movies while he talks to his imaginary friend Zach consistently is amazing. The characters he meets along the way, his burgeoning love with the female cop, let's call it Emily, is wonderful. And then what the game will do, it will just go, here's a gut punch, here's a kick to the balls, here's something you didn't see coming. Obviously the major villain in the game is the Raincoat Killer. We obviously chase him down quite a bit. It's him that's suspected of the ritual murderers, who is the Raincoat Killer, and those moments are fantastic dealing with him. And then I reached the latter part of the game as the story is beginning to slowly unravel, and you get to play as the Raincoat Killer when he first turned up. We go back in time, grainy ass film footage, and you take on his role and you basically go around the town killing everyone as they go mad from this gas. World War II, I think it was supposed to be set this point in. And the most horrifying, depressing version of Amazing Grace plays out. And I was stunned. I couldn't believe how brilliant it was. I was just like, what the fuck? The woman that warbles away for this Amazing Grace is just, she's selling this, it's horrifying. But it works so fucking well. And from that as well, like that was like the moment when I went, this is a great game. This is one of the best games I've ever played. It wasn't done then. It wasn't even done then. There were two major, as I said, I'm still sticking with spoilers, so if you jump back in, skip on. And then the ending, the realization that Zach is York. Yeah. He's not an imaginary friend. The villain of the piece attacked and murdered. So York always believed his father killed his mother. Yeah. The villain killed his mother. And his father couldn't bring himself to kill her when she was infected with what it is. Yeah. Killed himself. York got attacked. Yeah. And Zach got attacked and created York to protect Zach. Oh, okay. Yeah. And at the end of the game, his hair colour even changes back to being Zach. Oh. Such an impactful, wow, what a moment. Like, it's not what you thought it was. And then the game goes and fucking kills Emily. Oh. That bit where she stands up and she's got the plant in her stomach. I think I had to stop. Yeah. I had to stop and go, I can't do this right now. Like, I can't do this right now. It's too much for me. Deadly Premonition. It's madness in a game. But from that came something that I find unforgettable. I found it unforgettable. Where, like, to me, I called it the greatest game ever made on the greatest game of the Xbox 360 generation. Still stand by that, even though it's got as much hate as it's got love. I consider myself lucky that I am one of the people who are able to take the good out of it. Yeah. I'm not saying everybody should be able to do that because I get why you might not like it. Oh yeah, it's very, and I hadn't seen Twin Peaks before I played that, so I didn't even have those references. But for me, it's like I feel blessed that I got to be like, yes, this is good. Yeah.
And so like all games, sometimes people look at going, not for me. Other people go, yeah, I'm really got on board with this.
To have polarizing such a polarizing game that was rare. That's the thing. Yeah.
So we're into the big two.
Right, I left these two because they're the same style of game, point and clicks. Now, point and click games are arguably my most impactful style of gaming. Because of these two games. Every other style of game has had an importance to me, but point and click game has changed things. So I'm going to start with one that didn't so much change my life, but it's massively important to me. Unfortunately, I don't have a tattoo of it because it's near impossible to get a good tattoo how I want it to be. Yeah. To work within the design. Yeah. The game is Broken Sword 2, The Smoky Mirror. Now, I love Broken Sword 1. I love Broken Sword, The Curse of the Templars. I really, really do. It's fantastic. However, I played Broken Sword 2 before I did 1. Oh, okay. There's a reason being is simply because I used to swap music CDs with kids at school.
Yeah.
This was one of the ones I swapped it for.
Ah.
So this is why
Ended up with that one.
I ended up with this one. Didn't really care that it was a sequel. I just knew it was a point-and-click game, and I was banging into those point-and-click games. And this is why I love this. Fucking hell, do I love this game. Here's the thing, you can play it in a bubble.
Yeah.
After playing Brrraaains 1, I realised it would help to understand George and Nicole's... I'm saying Nico because it's... she says it with a French accent, so it sounds like Nico, but it's Nicole. Nicole. Yeah. You would understand their relationship a lot better. And the character of, say, Lobanu, whose voice actor died recently from Brrraaains 3, I must add. So R.I.P. To understand the relationship better. But as gameplay-wise, I think it takes everything great about Broken Sword 1 and betters it. Better locations, better interface, better looking, much more colourful, better, not so voice acting, better put together, because the voice actors for, say, George, Nicole, and many of the others are fantastic. But the locations, that's what I love the most. From the starting area in Paris to going to South America, to the jungles, to the things like where you meet the fucking priest that's on a retreat, to the Spanish island, Catcher's Landing, to fucking London Underground, the British Museum. All with that wonderful, glorious, colourful Broken Sword style and difficult point-and-click puzzles where everything can be looked at, everything can be studied, and everything has a point, which I absolutely love. The story of Broken Sword 2 mesmerised me. A legit fantasy from beginning to end with basis in realism in real life. But ultimately, the reason why it had so much impact to me is the character, George Stolbar. He is up there as probably my top 3 favourite characters of all time. I love the voice actor. I love his humour. I love his cheekiness. I wanted to be George when I was younger.
Oh, cool.
He was not... It wasn't that he was cool and suave, because he was a clumsy fucker who lucked into a lot of situations sometimes. He wasn't a hero. He was an accidental hero. Yeah. I guess I would argue he's almost like the likes of like Bruce Willis in Die Hard. Not that he's an action star, but the fact that he lucks into a lot of situations... Deals with it, finds a way to solve it, and often as well spits in the face of those who he thinks are like wronged and stuff like that. I love George Stolbar. He's been... When Broken Sword 5 came out 2 years ago, and it was like, we're going back to the 2D style, because 3 and 4 went to 3D, and they're not well loved because of that. And they said, Broken Sword 5 is go back to 2D style, and it's going to have George, obviously, and it's going to reunite George and Nicole. Couldn't be happier. And Broken Sword 5 is excellent. It doesn't have as much sort of impact as Broken Sword 2, and even 1 does, but Broken Sword 2, I would urge you play both. They're particularly do the remastered versions that are available on mobile. They're perfect for point and clicks as well, because it's all touchscreen. Broken Sword 2, my God, I love that game so fucking much.
Nice.
Yeah.
I say I like the fact that it keeps like the whole point and click. Obviously, at first, a lot of people might not get the concept of it, because obviously it's not the same as a gameplay where you just storm into things. Yeah. It's a bit more... What's the word back?
Slower.
Yeah,
take your time.
Yeah,
work out a puzzle. It's puzzle based.
Yeah.
You pick up items. You don't know what half of them. Some of them won't be used for an hour, 2 hours later.
Yeah, but you think it'll be useful for later.
Yeah, that's the point. Yeah, absolutely. There are point and click games. There are many great ones out there, including modern ones as well. Should be pointing out too. But yeah. Nice.
So we're ending on put up to the last one, the big one.
Yeah, the big one. This is the one I say changed my life, and I mean it. And it is Discworld 2, Missing Presumed, or Discworld 2, Mortality Bites, depending on what country you're from. Us, it was Discworld 2, Missing Presumed. Now, like Broken Sword 2, I got this game via a swap at school, in secondary school. I knew nothing. Never even heard of the Discworld. I never heard of Discworld. No. I didn't know who Terry Pratchett was. Didn't know. Just had this colourful point-and-click game. Was bang into him. Cool. And it's easy to go, and the rest is history. But it's not, because here's the funny thing. The automatic presumption is I played this, loved it, and that was it. Off goes my Discworld love.
Yeah.
No. Nope. I never played any other Discworld after this. Went back and played the first game. I never played Discworld Noir that followed. Never read a book. Never did. But every so often I would come back to this game.
Yeah.
I would always come back to this game. I loved its fantasy world. I loved its bright colours. I loved how fucking weird it was.
Yeah.
From the death of rats to suffragettes to trolls that you got to get the fucking diamond teeth out of, to Hollywood, to death go missing, to taking over the job of death. All voiced wonderfully and impressively. Eric Idle is my voice of Rincewind, thanks to this game. He is wonderful in it. Just absolutely adore everything about this, but I never followed it up because I don't think I realised why would it be based on anything. I just thought it was a weird game.
Yeah, plenty of them out there.
Absolutely,
it's quite small, quite niche thing. You just hold it by random, and then yeah.
It wasn't until I was about I was 18, between 18 and 19, 18 and 19 that it resurfaced in my life again. Discworld 2 Missing Presumed did, and this time I followed it up. I read up about it. And, this is based off books by a man called Terry Pratchett. Well, I love this game. I love the world. Maybe I like a book. This changed my life. It changed my life completely. That entire bookcase there over my shoulder is all Pratchett. From every single Discworld book, double. In fact, not all of them are double. Most of them are double, including a lot of the collection stuff from artwork to everything. I've tried to collect everything Terry Pratchett. I can do it over a certain period of time. My entire arm here, from here all the way down, is a Discworld themed tattoo. Terry Pratchett's Discworld got me through a difficult period in my life. I will always remember the impact the stories had on me when I was leaving behind my son. And when I say leaving behind, I mean the relationship fell apart. He wasn't going to live with me. He was going to live with his mother. Not a happy time. Of course not. This is what I was reading. The impact a book like Small Goods had on me. I thought that was exactly a lot of what he would write about matched up to how I was feeling or thinking. And stuff I've taken to heart as almost like gospel. As like, I like that. I like the way you see the world. That's how I want the world to be. So I'm going to have that. I'm going to use that. That's how it's been forever. I don't really get bummed out when celebrities die. I've never met you. I don't really, but fortunately I've been lucky in the sense that not many have died of mass murder. When Pratchett died, it was like, fuck. I have an extremely large death tattoo on my chest here from one of the art books with one of my all-time favourite quotes from it. There are many famously brilliant quotes from it that really make had an impact on me. His characters from not just the likes of Rincewind. When I talk about Rincewind, he's often, because he's the comic relief and the major star of Discworld 2 Missing Presumed, it's easy to kind of forget his impact. But I will never tell you this. I can never describe the soaring feeling I had in my heart in Sorcery when he finally has enough of running and fights. The half brick in a sock with the sorcerer. It's like, I love that. Commander Vimes. Commander Vimes as he would become, but Vimes, the character of Vimes, is someone I couldn't relate to because I wasn't an alcoholic. But I just, such an everyman. I've said to you before, the greatest villain I've ever read exists in the Discworld book, and it's Carcer in Nightwatch. One of the few times Terry wrote a human villain, and the line of where he says to Vimes, "I can see your house from here."
He's awful.
Is fucking... Because the implications, his wife and his son are there.
Yeah.
But I can see your house from here. Fucking, that is one where you want to see the guy get his. And he does, thankfully. But and none of that would have happened without Discworld 2 Missing Presumed. None of that would have happened. And I can't imagine what on earth my life would have been without Terry Pratchett's Discworld. So I attribute that to Discworld 2 Missing Presumed. If I had ranked these as important games, this would be number one, without a shadow of the doubt. Do I think people can play it and enjoy it? No. Not in the same sense, because it's so off the cuff and weird and raw.
Yeah, people go, what is this? And especially I think the weirdness might slide if you could actually, it was more of like a bog standard 3D game.
Yeah.
I feel. Because you go, I can walk around this weird world rather than, oh no, I'm pointing and clicking in this weird world and there's weird little side jokes and things like that. So yeah, I can definitely see if it was a 3D game, people might have got bored with it. But then maybe that's the pleasure of it is once you found a way into that world. And I think that's really cool.
The argument is as well that this would not be in this list if it wasn't for what followed. The books and the relationship I have with Terry Pratchett's stories and world and stuff like that. Of course it wouldn't. But because of that, this is why it's always going to exist. Discworld 2, Missing Presumed, Discworld 2 Mortality Bites, is responsible for something that changed my life completely. Gave me a different outlook on things. Got me through difficult times. I always wished I'd met him. But then, you know, to even say that, but then I don't want to ever be that person that says something like that.
Yeah.
I don't feel like I'm alone in that sense. There are many Pratchett fans out there, and I'm sure there are many others who haven't. But for me, what he did to me is very singular. So, and that comes from this point in simple PlayStation point-and-click game that's so fuck all.
Yeah.
That's why. Yeah, there you go. There's 10. Yeah.
Oh, thank you for them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Should we shake hands?
No, I think it's fantastic, and I say, like, the way you talk so passionately about games, I think people shouldn't be dismissive of games or lump people in to go, oh, video games. Or it's like, no, they can open creative outlets for people. The music involved in them kind of sparks emotions. You can make someone immortal in a game, like you said. Final Fantasy VII. The name, sorry, what's the name of the? Aerith.
Yeah.
Yeah, Aerith. Like you could say, like someone that helps someone deal with real life grief and things like that. So I think it's fantastic. Like there's certain games that for me, I'm not a gamer at all, but there's certain games I played as a child that I'm like, yeah, they had certain moments of, oh, fantastic. Like I'd love to, yeah. Let us know some of your thoughts in the comments.
Thank you very much for watching. You can check us out on gbhbl.com as well as on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter and Tumblr. Go to Patreon and help us out over there. That's patreon.com/GBHBL, as well as Big Cartel, where you can find some of our merchandise. We have a podcast running on SoundCloud and Apple Podcasts. And of course, if you like this video, do us a favour, hit the subscribe button and help the channel grow. Games, horror and heavy metal. What else is life for?